or welcome back to Covered True Crime. I'm Nati, and this is an extra report, and we will be discussing the autopsy of Claudine, aka Deedee Blanchard. On June 15, 2015, at the Greene County Medical Examiner's Office in Springfield, Missouri, a post-mortem examination was performed on the body of Claudine Blanchard, an adult female. The autopsy was performed under the authority of Missouri state law. The examination was conducted by medical examiner Jeff Harkey, MD, assisted by Tom Van Deberg of the medical examiner's office, and was begun at 12:50 p.m. Prior to her death, Miss Claudine Blanchard had lived with her daughter in a residence in Springfield, Missouri. After their neighbors reported to the Greene County Sheriff's Office that both women were missing, a search warrant was obtained and deputies entered the Blanchard's residence on June 14, 2015. Miss Claudine Blanchard was found lying prone in her bed. There were obvious signs of death. No resuscitation efforts were begun. Miss Claudine Blanchard was pronounced unalived at the scene at 3:13 p.m. on June 14, 2015. The Greene County Medical Examiner's death investigator was called to the scene and reported that Claudine had incised wounds of the neck and multiple stab wounds of the back and torso. Medical records dated June 2, 2015 indicated that the decedent had a past medical history of asthma, gastroesophageal reflux disease, thyroid disease, diabetes, headache, hyperlipidemia, and endometrial cancer. She had a surgical history of a hernia repair, appendectomy, tonsillectomy, hysterectomy, and a cholecystectomy. Her prescription medications were not listed in the medical record. It was reported that medications at the scene were collected by the Greene County Sheriff's Office. Summary of autopsy findings. 1. Adult female in an early state of decomposition. 2. Multiple 17 stab wounds of the back, chest, and neck. A. 6 wounds penetrate into the chest cavities. 1. Injuries of the upper and lower lobes of the left lung. 2. Injuries of the upper and lower lobes of the right lung. 3. Perforating injury on the posterior wall of the left atrium of the heart. 4. Hemopericardium, bilateral hemothoracis. 5. 2F the wounds pass through the right pleural cavity and penetrate the liver. B. 2 stab wounds of the back of the neck at the base of the skull. C. Visceral pallor due to blood loss. 3. Multiple incised wounds of the neck. Deep wounds. Number 1. Transversely across the back of the neck. A. 7 1/8 inch length of the skin surface. B. Penetrates up to 3 inches to end at the spine. 2. Obliquely on the right side of the neck, inferior to the lower jaw. A. 4 1/4 inches in length of the skin surface. B. Was produced by at least 2 cutted motions. C. Penetration of 3 1/4 inches to end of the spine. B. Multiple parallel superficial wounds right side of the neck. 1 incised wound on the back of the 4th digit of the left hand. Obesity, 255 pounds on a 5' 2" frame. Apparently, remote surgical absence of the appendix, gallbladder, uterus, ovaries, and fallopian tubes. Enlarged heart, 405 gm. Steatohepatitis and hepatic fibrosis. Toxicology. Blood screen equals negative for alcohols and drug of abuse. Because evidence of injury consists of specific injuries with precise sizing of the wounds and about 5-6 pages long, pretty much getting into depth of the location of the deep wounds and the incise wounds, I decided to instead just include the summary of the autopsy findings, which pretty much tells you everything you need to know there. And as you see here, I will now include the anatomy of the body and where the deep wounds and incise wounds were placed and are indicated here on this diagram of the body. On the anterior parts of the body, which is the front, you can see that she doesn't really have any stab wounds on the interior parts of the body. You can see the number 15, which is most likely on the side of her shoulder towards the back of her neck. When we go towards the posterior part of her body, which is the back side, you can see where the numbers 1 through 13 are, and those are the deep stab wounds towards the upper thoracic part of her back. As we all know, Deedee was laying on her stomach, so this is why you see the stab wounds were majorly on the back side, posterior of the upper thoracic part. I think you can conclude that these stab wounds were most likely aiming for major organs, such as the heart and the lungs. And now we will continue to another diagram of the anatomy of the body. Here, as you can see, is number 14. There is a stab wound to the side of the body. And in my opinion, I wonder if Deedee was alive at this point, trying to defend herself and struggling and moving around. Because how else would she get one right there? And the rest, the majority, 1 through 13, are on her back. And on top of the head, here we have stab wounds number 16 and 17, which are behind the neck, on the base of the skull. And then you see incise wounds, which is labeled A, B, C, A. Quite a few incise wounds. Now, incise wounds are similar to superficial wounds. They are longer in length, much more than they are deeper. So they cut right on top of the skin's layer. In other words, incise wounds do not penetrate muscle, ligaments, and bones. On the final diagram, you can see that on her index finger, she had a superficial cut, 3/8 inches. In my opinion, you can tell that this was most likely a defense wound. I also think that the deep cut to her side, as you saw in the previous body diagram, was also a defense wound, because majority of all of the stab wounds were on her back, the upper back, the thoracic back. There was about 13 up there. And then all of a sudden there's one on the side that's pretty much out of nowhere. And then you have like the 2 or 3 deep ones on the neck and the incise wounds on the neck, which the incisions are really got me questioning, like what was that for, unless you're trying to decapitate her, because once again, incisions are longer in length than they are deeper. So they're not deep, they're just long. So, with this autopsy, I'm actually having more questions. But there is a lot of questions that are answered as well. And now we go to the toxicology report. As you can see, alcohol, ethanol, acetone, Isopropyl, methanol is all negative. And her blood drug screen is all negative. So that means that Deedee Claudine Blanchard felt every single stab wound. She was afraid. She didn't know what was happening to her. There's so many questions. So many questions. There was 17 stab wounds. And Nicholas admitted to 5, because he said the one behind her neck that he didn't consider a deep wound. That was most likely one of the incise wounds. But there were a couple incise wounds. And then there was the one on her side. And then the one on her index finger. Did someone else help? Did she see their face? Did she see Gypsy's face and had questions in her mind? We will never know. We can have an idea and we can theorize. But what we do know is that Claudine Deedee Blanchard suffered. And she did not deserve that. She did not deserve that at all. And her daughter, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, is out here living her best life, profiting, in my opinion, and for what she's shown us so far, all for her mother's unaliving that she orchestrated. She purchased a weapon. She came up with the idea. She manipulated and lied to Nicholas Goderjohn and insisted that he do this for her to commit this crime in order for her to be at peace. Now, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, as you're living your best life, are you at peace? Thank you for watching Covered True Crime Extra Report, and I will see you this Sunday with an all new case. Bye.